If you've spent any amount of time in the Chateau corner of YouTube, you know the cast of characters by heart. There's Stephanie Jarvis, the eternally cheerful owner of Chateau de Lande, living in a perpetual state of renovation and champagne. And then there's Marie Wyke, the flower-arranging, soft-spoken artist who came to Lande years ago and somehow never really left, and that's what we're talking about today, why Marie stays at Lande, despite all the highs, lows, and passive-aggressive flower budget disputes along the way. Let's start at the beginning. Marie came to Chateau de Lande like many of Stephanie's guests do, full of creative energy, curiosity, and the dream of a slower, more romantic life in rural France. Back then, she was known as Marie the Florist, the quiet yet emotionally intuitive presence who brought a sense of calm and beauty to every Lande vlog. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. But she added something the chateau didn't have: authenticity. While Stephanie dazzled with grand dinners and costumes, Marie was in the background making sure the flowers didn't wilt before the next shoot. She became part of the chateau's identity, like the antique wallpaper or the endless scaffolding. So when she left a few years ago, it felt like a breakup. Viewers were heartbroken. And when she came back, well, it felt like watching someone return to a relationship they weren't quite ready to quit. So the question is, why does Marie stay? Because let's be honest, Chateau de Lande isn't exactly a stress-free environment. There's always construction noise, surprise guests, and the occasional public meltdown disguised as a tea party. If you're looking for peace, Lande might not be the obvious choice, but Marie isn't there just for peace. She's there for purpose, and maybe a bit of belonging. The chateau gives her a creative space she doesn't have elsewhere. Her art, her flowers, her quiet moments in the kitchen, they all have an audience at Lande. On her own, she's just Marie Wyke, an artist figuring it out. At Lande, she's Marie from Lande, part of the brand. The story, the mythology, and like it or not, being part of that story gives her visibility, stability, and identity. Let's also remember, Lande isn't a normal workplace. It's not like she clocks in, arranges tulips, and clocks out. It's a living soap opera, one where you eat, work, and film all in the same place. Everyone becomes emotionally entangled, because how could you not? Marie has said herself that she finds comfort in the chateau. It's familiar. It's safe in a strange, chaotic way. When you've lived in a place that feels like a family, even a dysfunctional one, it's hard to walk away for good. There's also the reality that Lande functions best with supporting characters. Stephanie is the star, sure, but every story needs someone grounding it, someone real. Marie brings that emotional counterbalance. She's soft where Stephanie is flamboyant. Quiet where the others are loud. Without her, the chateau loses a bit of its soul, but let's not pretend it's all fairytale harmony. Marie's role at Lande has always been complicated. There have been whispers, from fans and critics alike, about creative tension behind the scenes. Marie is an artist who wants independence and recognition. Stephanie, meanwhile, is a content creator who needs continuity and aesthetic control. That's not always an easy mix. You can see it in the way Marie sometimes hesitates on camera. She's there, but not fully there. She supports the dream, but maybe not the brand. And that tension is fascinating, because it's exactly why she stays. She doesn't want to abandon the world she helped build, even if it occasionally leaves her feeling overshadowed. There's also a more human explanation: fear of the unknown. Marie has tried leaving before. She's pursued her art, opened her own Patreon, even tried to establish her independence through painting and floral work. But self-employment is hard. Creative work is unpredictable. And, let's be honest, it's easier to thrive when you're attached to an established channel that already has a loyal audience. At Lande, she doesn't just have a roof over her head, she has a stage. Leaving means starting from zero again: new country, new projects, new income stream. And when you've already poured years of your life into something, walking away completely feels like erasing part of your own story. So Marie stays, maybe not out of dependence, but out of emotional inertia. Let's talk about comfort, too. The chateau might be chaotic, but it's also cozy in its own eccentric way. Meals are shared, laughter is constant, and there's always a new face or two to talk to. For someone like Marie, who seems to value quiet companionship over spotlight drama, Lande offers a soft landing, even when things go wrong, like budget squabbles, half-finished rooms, or creative burnout. The chateau keeps moving. It's a self-sustaining ecosystem of projects and personalities. And being part of that, even in the background, can feel reassuring. It's a bit like staying on a ship you know every creak and corner of, even if it sometimes sails in circles. Now, fans have their theories. Some think she stays out of loyalty, a genuine bond with Stephanie, forged over years of shared ups and downs. Others think it's convenience, a mix of friendship, familiarity, and the occasional business advantage. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Marie seems to genuinely care about Stephanie, despite their different temperaments. You can see it in the small moments, the way she listens when Stephanie vents, or how she still contributes when she could easily withdraw. That's not contractual loyalty. That's emotional investment, but there's also self-interest, and that's not a bad thing. Lande gives Marie visibility she wouldn't have otherwise. It connects her with patrons, art buyers, and a global audience that might not have discovered her otherwise. So while some critics frame her staying as dependency, it might actually be a form of strategic coexistence. And then there's nostalgia. Lande represents a time in Marie's life when everything felt possible: creativity, connection, community. Even when she left, that pull never really went away. When she returned, it wasn't just to help out. It was to reclaim a piece of that feeling, to be part of something that once made her feel alive. You can see it in her demeanor. She seems most at peace when she's arranging flowers in that sunlit kitchen or painting quietly in one of the chateau's endless nooks. It's not fame she's after. It's grounding. In that sense, Lande is less of a career choice and more of an emotional anchor. Of course, staying comes with trade-offs. There's always the risk of being typecast, forever Marie the florist, not Marie the independent artist. There's the constant presence of cameras, the curated narrative that doesn't always align with reality. And there's the inevitable tension that comes from living in someone else's story. But Marie has learned to navigate that. She shows up when she wants to, disappears when she needs to, and quietly sets her own boundaries, even if they're not always obvious to viewers. Her staying isn't necessarily submission. It might actually be quiet rebellion, staying on her own terms, refusing to conform to the chateau's chaos, carving out her identity in the margins. There's a poetic irony here, too. Lande is a place built on the idea of freedom, creative, emotional, artistic. And yet, the people who live there often seem the least free of all. They orbit each other, drawn in by shared dreams but bound by invisible ties of loyalty, nostalgia, and routine. Marie's story embodies that tension perfectly. She's both participant and observer. Part of the show, but not consumed by it. She could leave. She probably will, one day. But for now, Lande is still home, a place that's messy, complicated, and sometimes frustrating, but deeply familiar. In the end, maybe the question isn't why hasn't Marie left? Maybe it's why would she? She's built a quiet niche there, one that gives her community, purpose, and creative space. She doesn't need to be the star. She just needs to feel connected, and in a world where everyone's chasing visibility, maybe there's something quietly powerful about choosing comfort over ambition, because sometimes, the bravest thing isn't leaving the chateau. It's staying, on your own terms, for your own reasons, in your own time. So whether you see Marie as loyal, stuck, or simply content, one thing's clear: she's found her rhythm at Lande, and until the day she decides the story has run its course, she'll keep doing what she does best, making beauty in a place that's equal parts fairy tale and farce, because at Chateau de Lande, no one ever truly leaves. They just take a break, reflect, and eventually find their way back home.